Excited to go live for the first time in a long time. It's been a couple of months almost that we haven't been live on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I know I'm not live on Instagram, but Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So we're streaming live to all these platforms. And I'd love to invite you to kind of connect over here, just waiting for people to jump on while we chat about some questions that you might have. I know a lot of you have health questions, and we haven't done those in a while. And honestly, I have to say, I really missed it. So excited to kind of bring on bring on the conversations back to where we dropped off a while ago. So I'm excited. And let's bring on Vanya and Anna Hagopian, who are our special guests for today. Um, I see you guys, but I'm trying to get you on. So let's. Hey, Vanya.
Hey,
How you doing?
good. How are you?
And we have Anna. Hi.
Hi.
How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
How
How
are
are
you
you
guys?
guys?
We're doing well, thank you. It's
Good.
amazing to reconnect with people live. I haven't done a live, as I was just saying, for so long. And it feels really good to come back into the live and to kind of connect with people, which is one of my favorite things in the world. So I'm thrilled that you both are here with me. And we have some fun things to talk about, right? So we are actually going to be introducing something very special, which is the sort of half year launch of our membership program, which we run all year long. And Vanya, I know that you've been in the membership before, and Anna has also been a part of membership. And, um, you know, it's such a membership is such a special place for me because I just sort of land into this space of, oh my gosh, there's all these people coming together who have all of these questions about their health. And I think that I've been going live and working in this area for almost 15 years. And so one of the things I notice the most is everyone has questions. So welcome, both of you. Tell us a little bit about your story. So we'll start with Vanya. Tell us a bit about your story. And I know you support people in IHC. So you remember, and then you started to support people in IHC. And I'd love to sort of have you share more about that.
Yeah. So when I started as as a member, and I don't know if is that okay?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I really enjoyed being a member. I remember it was at a time in my journey where I was a bit newer and I actually didn't even know how much of how many other people in the world were doing medical medium. I was like still looking at Facebook, I think. Like I was barely looking at Instagram. It was so funny. And then joining the membership, I got to know people. We were learning. I felt like we were in like school. We're learning how to apply these protocols in ways that would support us and ways that we would support our family and friends. And it was funny because I got to meet my really like, good friends from the membership, which is really awesome that are local. So I got to meet so many people that are across the world, which is amazing. And then I think like most importantly was meeting people who are like near you and you get to actually like go buy tomato plants together, which you know me and my friends would do. We go for hikes and all of that. And actually, it turned into like kind of a bigger local community, which is kind of amazing. Um, and then I grew to also kind of around the same time, also applying it and working with clients and being able to then grow into where I am today, where I'm working as a health coach with men and women who are also on their journeys and are looking for support as they're starting to heal and grow, and so it's just this really beautiful kind of light that we're just like kind of increasing that I was able to unlock and grow while I was in membership, and then able to kind of help others in unlocking for themselves. I think the audio is a little off.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So what's happening, I think, is when my microphone goes on, then there's a little echo coming off of everyone's microphone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute myself when you guys are talking, so there's no echo. But what I was saying was somebody who's watching, Leanne Pat, whom we love so much, is in membership, and she's saying, love membership. It's a huge comfort to have people who get it. And he's an awesome teacher. Thank you so much. It's just a sweet comment, Leanne. Thanks for being here. And yeah, I mean, that's what it's about, right? It's about bringing that comfort to people. So, Anna, I know you've been a member, and was it like that for you?
It was more than that for me. The most crucial time for me to be able to be a part of the community was in the beginning of the pandemic. And that was a very special time on so many levels to be a part of the community and just to have that extra, the feeling of being in a safe place where you can share and support each other and, feel so connected over something that was really so traumatic for everybody. And so having you lead us through that and having each other was an incredible experience. And I always tell you this, Muneeza, but you provide so much value. It is just a tremendous amount of value in the community. And I don't even know if anyone else is doing this. Like you have, it's like a whole world of, it's like a whole world in like everything that you offer. It's really something else. And yeah, I mean, we have so much to talk about, but I'm just so grateful that I'm a part of it because honestly, there's no other place that I know of that you can just write questions and get answers and have that kind of support. Like any doctor that you go to, you don't really have that. You can't just reach out to them and say, hey, this is going on, can you please help me? And it just doesn't exist. So it's so reassuring and comforting, and it just helps you along your journey, to keep going and not lose it while you're in those moments. So thank you so much.
Gosh, thank you for sharing that. It's so helpful to actually hear what people's own experiences are because that's ultimately like I'm sitting behind a screen and reading things off a screen and not really having this live interaction, which we do actually once a month, right? We have this live interaction with people, and then we're creating more spaces for live interaction. And what we're doing is wanting you all to get to know the other admins really well, the support coaches really well. So we're hosting like these mini kind of satellite groups that are happening on the weekends where people can join and have this social experience. It's the best that we can do, I think, in lieu of a live community in person, which I think Vanya has said that, in California, they've sort of managed to create this beautiful space. I think it's also happened in Germany where all across the pond in Europe, there's this massive, beautiful community who are just so supportive of each other and so compassionate. Recently, they held a festival in Germany, and I happened to speak at this festival, which was such an honor, I'll tell you. Like, I was in tears the whole time. I could barely pull myself together to even say a few words. They we said a prayer for Anthony, and we said a prayer for the medical medium community, and then they sang a song that they written. They actually transcribed the Mamma Mia song and wrote it made it a celery juice song. It was so funny and so well done. And they had the piano parts and everybody was singing with the words. I was just like blown away, right?
Wow.
Just this level of being able to come together. I think that all of us have been so isolated in our lives that when we do get together, it's like, there's fireworks going off because we're like, oh my gosh, I have a person in real life who can actually understand what I've been through. So I'm just grateful that our intuitive healing community, which is virtual, has been able to translate through into real life for people as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Christy says, us Americans are slacking. I think so. I think the Europeans are giving us a run for our money and that we need to up our game on having get-togethers. And I've tried to do this with retreats before the pandemic started, but then the pandemic happened and the idea about retreats was sort of like, okay, well, we can't do this for a while, so let's pause. And so when can we kind of bring it back together and keep going on this path of connecting people, bringing people together? Because ultimately, when people come together, there's so much strength in that and power in that. And I mean, Vanya, you've been at live meetups. What is the strength and power of people coming together?
I mean, just feels like it just, we're getting to know each other's symptoms and how, just everyone's journey. Like that's kind of funny actually, because I was speaking with someone earlier. We're like, what's your list? Like what's your list that you healed, and or that you're in the process of healing, or maybe they just had a flare, or but it's like we and my friend Yvonne, I have to give her the credit in putting all this together. And I met her through IHC, and she had put together a like a meetup where we could actually have like food, and it was just like this, oh my gosh, this delicious just setting of all this wonderful food. And it's like, when can you go to a party and eat everything at the table? Only at an party. So it's amazing. And you get, my husband came, people brought their partners, their children, and we just got to like connect, and everyone's, kind of in different levels and different kind of protocols, but it's all under this like umbrella of and it was just so beautiful because you feel very accepted, and you don't have to worry about explaining to people what you're eating. It's like healing for your soul to have something like this.
Yeah, and obviously nobody knew that the pandemic was going to happen, and the fact that we had a community up and ready to go at the time that it took place meant that it actually allowed a lot of people to come into the community to get answers, to get help. I mean, I don't know if you guys noticed or you ladies noticed, there was people were panicking like crazy about their health during that time. And maybe you all were getting phone calls as well from people saying, "Oh my gosh, what do I do?" or "How do I protect myself?" or "How do we stay safe?" And these conversations were confusing because a lot of the people who are in this community don't actually follow mainstream anything. So they're not believing all the stuff that you're hearing. They wanted another alternative. Uh, they wanted an alternative conversation, I think, around some truth, around what was really happening, and beyond anything, like, how do I take care of myself and my family, right? So in a way, I think just following, it was divine guidance that the community existed around that time, and then we got to deepen and get to know each other really well. And honestly, I think the pandemic really lasted like 3 years, right? 2020 to 2021, and then 2022, like the middle to end of it, was when people were like, oh, okay, now we're really like coming back to normal. Although some people did earlier than others, but overall, I think everybody finally got there by the end of 2022. So it was a time of great interest, I think, of like coming together. And beyond that, though, I mean, we held our community together and we talk about these topics that affect all of us, right? So not only do we address what's going on in the world, because we try to bring that in every time we say a little bit about world events, but we really are like, what do you need, right? And so, how, I know, Vanya, you've been on both sides of this aisle. What was it like being a member, and then what has it been like being the one to go out and help people as well?
I think that, well, being a member, it was incredibly supportive. And I think Anna referenced that as well, is like it was kind of like a lifeline. On top of it being a lifeline and connecting with everyone, it's a lifeline in learning all this information, because you really like were with us and supporting us from the pandemic perspective, and being like, okay, like, everyone's asking questions, right? We have the forum. So we're all asking questions of, hey, what about this? Or what about that? And hey, we're hearing this. And, we have guidelines around it. So we have to be careful because we want to protect the space that we have. And, you were providing whatever information that you were able to. And it was just, I think, a lifeline in and of itself, of helping people to kind of be like, okay, I know that I have the tools, I have this information, I'm not on my own. And that helped a lot because there's just so many things to consider during that time. And like you mentioned, we kind of went through phases from like the beginning to the middle towards the end, and yeah, I would say it was probably about 3 years. Like, and there's like some healing needed from those
For
3 years.
real. Absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, like it was pretty, there's a lot that happened. And I think it's good to acknowledge that, like what we went through. And so I feel like as I then shifted and started helping people, you know, the thing is when you suffer, as, people like us who have suffered and have used these tools, it helps to access compassion so much more because you're like, oh my gosh, I've been there. I've been on my knees crying. Like, I know what that feels like. I know where you are. Maybe I didn't have the exact same things, or maybe I did. Oftentimes I did. But it's like, I feel you on that, and it's like, okay, how are we going to help you get to the next step? How are we going to help you get, and it's like the community as a whole, we were helping people to move back up. Okay, let's pick ourselves up. It's, and it was like it was a bumpy road. That's, especially bumpy during that time. Life tends to go up and down. We tend to have stressors and things like that, but it's nice to have this consistent kind of lifeline, this consistent community that we can go back to and ask questions.
Thanks for sharing that. It really was not just a lifeline for the members, but also for me, I would say, because I felt like I had a place to go to talk about some things that otherwise there was nowhere to talk about them. Even I couldn't talk about them, and I had nowhere to go. So it was really a coming together, and I often imagined all of us like sitting together in one big room, like
Yeah.
talking, sharing, all of that. What was it like for you, Anna? Because I know you were there at that time too.
Whew. It was such an emotional support. It was very, like I said, there, we're isolated physically from everyone, but then even mentally, you're on a different page with a lot of people. So you just feel like, where can I express this, or where can I get a sounding board, or, so it was a lot of spiritual, mental, emotional, physical healing that was happening. And it really felt like such a support. Like, I don't know, it's the, honestly, like, it was divinely guided because the timing was incredible. Like, it was like you created it and then this happened. So, and I just found that I still do till this day. I always think about that time. I'm like, thank gosh that we had that, because literally we learned so many tools on how to get through that. And, we still apply them till this day, but it was really something, it is something special. It's really, yeah, very, very good.
No, thanks for that. I just feel like also like it's easy to get waylaid, right? Like you can know the tools and you can have all the information, and then you go off into your life and into the world and into your family, and you start to hear all this stuff, and people cast doubt on you and your ideas, and then you kind of, I know some people don't waver, but some people do. I think most people tend to have some doubt creep in, even though they kind of know, but it creeps in because they're like, what if I'm wrong? Or what if this is all wrong? Or what if this is, because, and I think that the community helps to anchor all that, right? To anchor in your own faith and anchor in your own like belief in this path that you've chosen, and it helps to strengthen all of us, because I notice that people will come in and they'll be like, oh, I don't know, like my family member said this, and then they'll get some reassurance, and then they walk away from that going, okay, I feel better, I feel stronger, I feel, there's that also that building of that kind of resilience of our own ability to hold those conversations. Because I would love for, because now in my life, like people don't tend to argue with me because they're like, I'm not going to get anywhere with Muneeza, but you might have to listen to some stuff she'll have to say. So people like in my family and friends, they tend to, they'll ask my opinion, but they won't ever like get into an argument with me because I can keep going when it comes to like health. Like I'll just keep sharing more and more information until I think they're like, okay, I think I've had enough. But
Yeah.
a lot of people don't have the ability to like do that, right? To hold that level of a conversation, or to feel that confident that they can hold that conversation. I think they start to feel insecure because there is so much confusion out there. So we want this place to be this clear space where there's no doubt that this information that we're following is truthful, it works. We have so many examples of it working, and for a place to, um, you know, coming into a place where you can actually learn, grow, strengthen, and come together stronger is what we wish to create. I'm sort of wondering, like, Vanya, as a practitioner, now you are in the other hat. How do you see that in the members? Like, you've seen people asking these questions. How do you feel like, I know you work with both physical health and emotional health, right? So, and spiritual health. So, how do you feel people respond to the support that they get? And what are we really, as a group, trying to create for them?
Yeah, I think that a big piece of it that people are able to go in and ask questions about, like, you're covering these amazing topics of things that they can either apply for themselves or their family or their friends. And what I love is as they're learning, they're then able to post questions about, like, well, what about this? Or what angel would I reach out to for this? Or, so it's even like deepening the understanding. And I love the questions that we see, because you're like, oh, that's such a good question. Oh my gosh. Well, okay, this angel has really helped me when it comes to this. Or, and we're able to have like a deepening of understanding on the topics for each month. So from like that kind of practitioner perspective, I get to see the level of understanding and curiosity that everybody is in. And so, for example, if it's a newer member, you kind of get a gauge of like, okay, they're asking these types of questions. And I know, because I asked those same ones when I was starting, and I would have loved to have this. So from that perspective, it's so cool to see that. And then, as people grow, you're starting to see their curiosity change, and then they start asking the spiritual questions, and or maybe they're going through, and we touched on this, is like, well, the last 3 years was a bit intense. But when we talk about emotional health, like, even though we're kind of past that in a sense, there's a lot of like trauma to recover from. And then there's also just new things that life throws our way, depending on where we live, what we're dealing with, who our family is. Like, all these influences can impact our emotional health. And that can shake a bit our foundation on, like, okay, well, I don't even know, I can't even trust my own judgment, or I don't even know, what do I take for this? And so it really helps to have this place where you can learn, and you're having resources where there's meditations each month, and so we have Cornelia doing the meditations, and there's just this level of emotional spiritual support, and it helps us through those ups and downs that we have in life.
Yeah, that's exactly what we wanted to create. My vision was years ago, because when I was sick, I had nowhere to go, right? And I thought, gosh, if there was a place to go where you could just talk about what you're going through and get this extra support, and what would that feel like? What would that look like? Well, what kind of support would I want? And while physical health support is great, but I'm like, I'm dealing with all these emotions about, am I ever going to heal? I'm like, I feel so gutted um, as a mother to not be able to take care of my children. And, mom guilt is a real thing. I know, Anna is a mom and she's got a little one at home. And, when you can't show up, like, you feel this kind of pang of guilt, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, but where can you go and ask a question about that? Because other people will just tell you, well, it's fine, don't worry about it. Like, you'll be back on your feet in no time, and you're like, well, I'm gonna be back on my feet, but I don't know in no time. Like, it might take time. It might be a real thing. And so there's nowhere to go where you could have this whole experience. And then I'm like, well, I want to have a place where I could even talk about all the stuff that nobody else wants to share or talk about, like the kind of like the kind of non-mainstream stuff. And so that was the vision. That's where it came from. I was laying in bed, sick, bedridden in 2017, and that's when it kind of came to me. I'm like, we need a community. And I started talking to my business coach at the time, and she's like, well, you can't do that yet, so let's think about it. Do you really want to do that? And she actually kind of gave me the downside of membership like for a long time. She's like, it's hard, it takes work, you're gonna have to show up every month, do you really want to be that committed, like blah blah blah. And she like painted, she really wanted me to see all of what it would take to show up to this. And I kept thinking, are you trying to tell me no? And she said, no, I'm not trying to tell you no. I'm trying to get you to see that if this all that I'm pointing out to you is no big deal and you can go and you still have this like incredible passion to create it, then it's the right thing for you to do. And she did that to me for 3 years before she was like, I think you're ready.
May I speak on that?
Yeah, please.
Because I mean, coming from like, I've had my own business before and I just know how much work it takes. And I'm also health coaching now and just and doing Rise Up, which is an amazing program. And it's basically the same thing. You have that support built in and I love it so much. But it's like, I see how much work you do. Like there's so much work that goes into what you're doing and it's not an easy thing and it's so layered and complicated and there's so many like because you offer so much. You offer like I mean the Flourish program, speaking of having a child, like we decided to foster so a toddler just showed up overnight. It was like no notice. So it's like you don't know what age you're getting, you don't know what health issues there. So it was like all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. I have questions. And then Flourish was there. And I'm like, yes. I was like, Muneeza, can I buy this program? Like, and it was just so wonderful that you had that, like a whole education on, parenting from infancy all the way up. And that, I mean, literally that's been the greatest tool for me. So, I mean, there's so much there, but although I see why your coach was like, are you sure? Because there's so many facets to it and there's so much work that goes behind it. People just think it's just a website, but it's like you're building Rome back there. It's yeah.
Oh my gosh, that made me laugh. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, our if we look at somebody asked a question about whether you can ask personalized health questions. I just want to make sure I respond to that. You can ask personal health questions, Nancy, and Vanya here can tell you exactly how personalized we get. And Vanya, you want to speak to that?
Yeah.
And I'll come back to you, Anna, in a minute.
Yeah, it can be very personal. At whatever level you are comfortable in sharing, to say, hey, I have this flare, and even if it's something that's like, I got this something on my skin, I don't know what it is. If you feel comfortable doing so, you can share a picture of it. So that helps us with understanding, okay, all right, oh, you know what, I've had that, or I had a client who had that, or, it's like, it can be really helpful. Like whether you're newer and you're starting to learn the information or you've been on your journey for some time and you're dealing with a flare, maybe you caught a bug or something. What's nice is you're able to ask those personalized questions in order to get that support. And, being a support coach behind the scenes, like we're like, oh, okay, yes, I've seen that. Or, oh, you know what, I'll answer this one. I've had that rash before, or, whatever it may be, we're able to give that support that's really specialized to what you're dealing with and what you need help with.
Thanks for that, Vanya. Yeah, it really is specialized. We're really, our dream and vision is that this is not just a regular kind of membership. Like we want this to be a place which is a place where you come to get all your answers, right? So it's not just, oh, I can go there and maybe jump on one call a month. We're really building community. Like we want to get to know all of you you're just not a name on a screen. We get to know who you are. We're building this whole ecosystem. And I know both Vanya and has been in Rise Up and Anna is in Rise Up right now. And we actually send out a call for volunteers in the membership community. Like, hey guys, anybody can't afford like coaching and wants some really kick-ass coaching with like 12, 15 people helping you out in the coaching calls, like jump on. And we get hundreds of applications from people from the community that we get to then coach at these higher levels and actually help our practitioners train. And you guys all help with that. So when I say community, I'm not just saying, oh, it's just in membership. Like we're building community even beyond that, because my vision is to have a practitioner community, a place, because how many of you as practitioners too feel like there's somewhere to go? Like if you were trained as a health coach I'm trained as a health coach. You know, you're both trained as health coaches. Like, where do you go to have a conversation about this information that has helped you because nothing else did, right? Like, where do you go? There's nowhere to go. And I think that coming back into what Anna was saying, first of all, I'm so glad Flourish was there for you when you needed it. Um, yeah, I mean, like, I feel like we are creating and want to create support for people at all these levels, right? We're not like I don't want there to be a gap in support for any kind of demographic because where else do you go? There isn't anywhere else to go. So like yes, you have the books, yes, you have the information, yes, you can read, yes, you can understand, but where do you go for community? It's hard to find people on Instagram. Yes, the medical medium Instagram community is awesome and beautiful, but it's hard to be personal unless you make the effort to reach out. And I find that in these membership communities and things, we can build that more easily and build those connections more easily. And so yeah, so Leanne says, learning the information from the books is one thing, but when you're going through a hard time, sometimes it's hard to comprehend what you need to do when your mind is so busy. Having Muneeza in the community just gets you to see what you need to do in that. Thanks for sharing that. I know the comment was longer, so I'm going to read it. You said that to see what you do in that moment to get over the hump in a practical way without having to weigh through lots of information so that you can get to a place where you can think for yourself and start to heal. The community is very compassionate and understanding. And this speaks to something very true in that while the books are here for all of us for hopefully until the end of time, there are 9 books, right? And can you imagine starting your journey when 9 books were available? How would that make you feel?
So overwhelmed. I remember when someone told me about you before I knew about you. I was already doing medical medium, and this woman told me about you, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. But I was like, but I don't really think I need her because I have what I need for medical medium. Like, I was like, why would I, I was like, I'll follow her, but I didn't think I needed you. But you ended up being the person that literally like helped me with all the missing pieces in my healing journey and got me to the other side. It was literally like, I can say, I was doing medical medium. I was trying everything, and there was still some pieces missing, and there was nowhere to communicate that. It wasn't like I could call AW and be like, hey, So it was just so amazing to have you there and to be able to like have a person that I can talk to and that can like give me an intuitive reading and really connect with me on that level and be such an emotional support. It literally, I just can't tell you how grateful I am. You got me to the other side, Muneeza. You really did.
Oh, I know you're gonna make me cry.
Really, really did.
um,
Yeah.
Truly feel humbled hearing that. I do. I never take it for granted when people are successful on this journey or make breakthroughs because health is so precarious and we're up against so much. So when it happens, like it's a miracle for each and every single person. And to play a small part in that journey, because you guys are the ones living your lives doing the work, it's humbling. It's really humbling to be able to be there for people and to pull together people. And, I find that faith is so lacking in so many people that is the thing that I think we end up doing the most in our interactions with people, in our connections with people, is we're helping them to build those building blocks of faith. And while, I mean, honestly, there's plenty of people who do it with just the books. And I love that they do. I love that they're out there. They're being an ambassador for the information. They're sharing their healing stories. And yet there are groups of people who cannot just do it from the books because either the case is too complex and they cannot put the pieces together, or they're too, neurological in their, like too many neurosymptoms. And brain fog is a thing. And memory, remembering, piecing it together, connecting the dots when now that we know from Brain Saver how many metals we all have in our brains and what the interference can be from those metals, it's a wonder that any of us are able to function at all. Like, ever feel that way? Like, oh, okay. But I feel like that's what we're here to do. It's like if we have someone or a group of people, because I mean, I can't even do the membership by myself. It takes a group, it takes a team. It's like we have a team behind the scenes who does all the tech work, we have graphics work, we have people who are helping us with the content, with the PowerPoint presentations, the people who are offering the meditations, the coaches who are a huge part of this, who are literally answering people's questions, hundreds of them every week. And that's the whole point, is trying to get people to, so our goal was, okay, people learn visually, people learn auditorily, people learn kinesthetically, people learn in all these different ways. So can we provide enough tools to help meet each person's type of need to learn, right? Because we all learn in different ways, and we're constantly improving the way we offer things, because we started out one way, and today, which is our 4th year in membership, looks totally different than it did 4 years ago. So I feel like if we can help people meet those needs and break it down and even make it a little bit easier, like we don't ever want to take people away from the books. We want to bring people back to the books. I mean, Vanya knows, like when we have our support coach meetings, like all we're doing is going back into the books, right? I mean, back into the books. That's all we do over and over again, because if sick people struggle and we're healthier perhaps than most people that we're working with, if we also struggle, like it's so much information. And I think that if you hold it in a community, it dissipates more easily when it's needed, right? And we can guide people to be like, hey, I know, like even we had somebody in Rise Up recently who kept saying, I have difficulty coping. And I remembered, I'm like, Brain Saver has a section on difficulty coping. But most people didn't even remember that or hadn't come across it. So it's like that collective community when we can together be like, oh yeah, I got that part. Oh, I remember where he talked about this. Like the answers are there, but it's just so vast. Like how do we provide people quicker answers and more direct to what they need and help them get that shortcut and help them heal enough that they go back to the books, and then you can be independent, right? And it's all about those journeys. So some beautiful comments coming through. Christy says, I feel like I learned more through your presentations. The way you break it down for us helps so much, and it finally sticks. And isn't that the case? So how many times have you guys read the books and been like, I have to read this again because it's not sticking?
I reread, like I've gone through them and then I reread them from like a practitioner standpoint, and then I'm still rereading certain aspects. So it's just a lifelong journey.
I would agree. And you, Anna, have you had to find that you have to keep rereading?
I do. And then I find these new golden gems in there. I'm like, wait a minute, I read this before, but it's hitting me right now in such a way that, and it comes in the perfect time, when you're looking for something and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is what so-and-so was asking about. And then you reach out to that person. And so it is just a really, there's so much there. Like you said, it's so vast, and having people to reach out to that they have that, right in their memory. They're like, hey, this is what this is. And so, or look it up here, so it's such a great resource to have, but definitely have to go back into the books all the time.
All the time. I think that is the root of it. And I also think that we want to be this pillar of like a role model of how to keep the books at the center and the focus of our discussions, right? We're not saying to people, oh, yes, there are no answers for this, therefore you should go there. No, the answers are all there. It's just like putting it together, piecing it together, and understanding it and applying it. It takes a minute to figure it out. I've been doing this for 11 years with just purely medical medium information, and I still feel like I'm in kindergarten. I'm like, wait, like, I feel like there's so much Brain Saver, in a way, I get frustrated because I'm like, all I want to do is sit down with that book and just be like 2 months with my head in the book and not lift my head out. Like, I just want to absorb it in that way. And I don't know that I'll ever get 2 months to just do that with kids and family and everyone around. But, the effort is always there to read and understand better. And that's why the support coaches do a book club. Like that's all we do is like we read every sentence, we go back and analyze, and people share thoughts, and it helps it to stick in a different way, because we are learning. And that's the commitment that we have, that we are continuing to learn so that we can continue to support all of you. Because if you struggle to learn, we will make that commitment on your behalf, right? If you are struggling with any of it, like, come to somebody who understands it, maybe can retain it a bit better than you can, but you'll get there too one day. And that's the goal, is to help you be able to do what we do, right? If that's your choice, if that's how much you want to know the books. And so many people, I mean, just Rise Up is a perfect example of so many people who heal. Every single person in Rise Up has had a healing journey with medical medium information, and then they want to help others. And so many of you are in that same boat of, right? And I mean, you were a late joiner to our program, but you were here. Better late than never, right?
Actually, I had filled out the history form to be chosen as a client study for Rise Up, and then I signed up and I was in it, and I was like, oh. But yeah, it's so great. I love it. Yeah.
Oh, you're muted.
Melanie Robitaille, who's in Quebec in Canada. She's also a graduate of, I think, the first or second, maybe the first Rise Up that we did. And she's a naturopath in Quebec. And I've referred to her many, many, many people in Canada who just don't know where to go for a good medical medium practitioner in Canada. And, she's sharing that Anna and Vanya, and amazing resources. Love so much when Muneeza shared your personal journey with your kids and clients and gave me permission to take care of myself, trust, and stand up. And I've just seen Melanie just become better and better and better. So if you all are listening, you're in Canada, you want a practitioner who applies medical medium information, who stays true to it as much as possible, check out Melanie. She's awesome. And another comment from Christy, she's so funny. She's like, well, it comes across as if you did sit down with Brain Saver for 2 months. I'm glad it comes across that way, because when I'm talking about it, I'm still not totally like, I think I get it, but I think I need more. And I go back and listen to my own presentations, again and again. I'm like, yeah, I do. Absolutely. Because it's all in there, because it takes so much time to draw it out, put it on the slides, understand it, apply it. And then I go back because I remember a lot. My memory's pretty good, but I don't remember everything. So when I go back, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that nugget, or oh yeah, I forgot about that nugget. And I hope that we're giving people the same opportunity, right? That we have these recorded calls, and you're in membership, you get to keep that forever. So, you can always go back. If you purchase like a month in March in 2021, that's with you forever. You can go back and listen to that call anytime you want, go back and re-listen, apply. And because we are vested in you, like, learning, and vested in you, like, building. And so, yeah, there's so many memberships where I want to point out what's so different about our membership compared to everyone else's. Every other membership I know, you're either all in or all out. So if you're all in, then you pay and you're in. And you don't get to keep any of the material if you step out. But we allow that. We allow people to keep that because we're vested in people learning. And people tell me, oh, that's just, you're going to lose so much money. It's not a smart model. Like, I go against the grain with everything that people teach in like business courses and business schools because we have a different mission. And honestly, it's hard to work with coaches and practitioners outside because you're like, wait, like, we have a different mission, and they don't always understand why there's this sort of desire to give more, because they're like, no, then you're not realizing your worth. I'm like, nope, it's got nothing to do with my worth. I think I'm pretty good with my worth. It's because of what I want to give. And that narrative too, it's like such a negative narrative. And right, Vanya, you've been to health coaching school, and Anna, you have as well. Don't you hear narratives like that?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And I tend to say, even as when I was a member, but also as a practitioner, like being able to go back and refer to like the different topics. You're like, oh, I remember we talked about water purification and it was in this month, and you're able to go back, you're able to listen to it. like being able to, because sometimes when you're listening to things, you're not always going to be as attentive, in certain moments. It just depends. But you're like, oh, I don't want to miss this. I want to listen to it. So you have it in your memory and you're able to like go back. And if you're helping a client, if you're helping yourself, your family member, you're able to go back and refer to that information, which is so helpful that it's available to us. When you purchase it, it's yours and you have it. It's just, yeah, you definitely give so much in membership. And that's just like another way that you give.
We try to, Vanya. I mean, this is why I want people to know why we're different. I want people to know what they can get. Also, somebody told me one time, if you are doing something that you really believe will change somebody's life, wouldn't you want to tell them about it? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, I do that in conversations anyway. Like, I've shared medical medium information for 11 years. I mean, I sent him 200 clients. Like, you got to go talk to this guy. And then, of course, I've given out hundreds of books, and like, you share the stuff that you believe works. And so this particular person was telling me, they're like, well, then when you're talking about something you've created, why won't you? Like, if you really believe that it can change somebody's life, it could save a life, why wouldn't you tell them about it? And that's what I also offer to people in Rise Up. Like, don't be afraid to share what you are here to do, because it could save somebody's life. That's the power of what we're offering and what we are teaching and what practitioners can do. Like, even if you end up working with just one person in your whole life, right? Mm-hmm. And you change that person's life and you save that person's life, is that not worth it? Mm-hmm. So if you're on the fence and you're not sure what to do, and you're wondering whether this could be for you, like, email us, membership@muneezaahmed.com. Email us, let us know what questions you have. But basically, we are launching our subscription for the next 6 months. You can purchase a subscription for the next 6 months. And this is the email address, popping it onto the screen right now. If you have questions. But our subscription for the next 6 months is now available. You purchase for 5 months and you get the 6th month free. So please take advantage of that, because again, it's as low cost as we can offer. Again, if I had to, maybe one day I'll do a video on how we had to come up with pricing this out, because it's a whole project just to price it out. And people say to me, like you all have said, like, we give a lot, and people say, well, if you're giving this much, you should be charging like $250 a month per person. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not gonna fly. I'm working with sick people who are on bed rest or are on disability because they can't work. I mean, we got to figure out another way to make this work and still make it viable. Like, this is what we want to do. So,
the other thing to offer that I love, Muneeza, for those that haven't been in membership before, is that when you're on a live in membership, you actually can live chat with other people. And that's been such an incredible aspect to it, because you can connect with someone and then connect with them outside of that as well, and like have that relationship build. And also you have the replays. So a lot of times if you do jump on a live, maybe you have to jump off, or maybe you're multitasking, or you have a kid in the background, you can like hear it again later. And so, yeah, there's so much there, it's just like a library, a wealth of information that's always there. And like you said, Muneeza, even if you're not in membership, you still have access to it. Like, I've had to jump out of membership for a little while and then I went back in, but I was able to still access important information that I had purchased before. And that's really something, like you said, that you don't get anywhere else, really, at least that I know of. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I worked with people who are experts in, experts in membership. Like, we went to them. We're like, all right, you guys know how to do memberships. Teach us everything you know. And we ended up going against the grain of about 50% of what they were teaching us. They're like, this isn't going to work. It's not going to work. This is just it's not viable. It's not sustainable. And I'm like, we're going to figure out a way. And I prayed a lot. I'm like, how do I want to make this as low cost as possible, as humanly possible, and offer as much as possible for this. So how do we make this work? There has to be a formula that makes this work. And I think God just heard that prayer, because I'm like, there's just so many people who are sick. But also what we have is a very active in membership, in the annual membership, when we launched in December, we did a massive scholarship program, and that's what we can also offer. So, this time around, there are 15 seats that are going to be available through Underdog Warriors, and we're going to be doing a live about that. So that's full 6 months scholarship going to be provided to you guys, if you go through Underdog Warriors. And see, that's the potential for this to grow. Like I just want people to know that there's so much heart behind this, and it's not just a business thing for us. It's not that. There's heart behind this. We get to know the community. We want to know the people behind the screen. We want to get to know what your issues are. We're interested. We want to ask the questions. We want to inquire and find out, what do you really have going on? How can we really give you that tool that you may be missing or haven't thought of, right? And we're all struggling, and the center of all of this is just deep compassion for each individual, like on every level, like struggling with their family, struggling with being heard, struggling with money, struggling with their health, can't get up, can't afford supplements. Like, we understand the difficulties. We understand the struggles. We know what people are up against, and we embrace you no matter what. And you both, Anna, I know you're starting your health coaching business now, and what do you, like, I would love to see you one day being one of our support coaches too,
I would love that.
Yeah, and we want to circle back around. Like, we want to keep the circle growing of people coming in, learning, and then growing, and keep giving back in this way as well. Like, it's a way to learn, it's a way to give back. And I just, both of you have been such a big part of my world. And I know we don't interact too much, but you have no idea. Like, I consider all of you just so special. And the healing journeys that you've shared, Anna, I know that you've had a massive healing journey as well of your own. And in fact, you have an interview you did with us. Tell us more about that.
Oh, I literally was thinking about that today. And, just, I was so sick that I didn't eat, sleep, lay down, nothing. I just felt like all the aspects that make you feel human, were gone. And you had a session with me and you said, let's check back in 3 months. I really think you're going to start feeling better. And I had years of being so sick, and I was like months, really? And things just started shifting. And then I was like, hallelujah. I was just like wanting to scream at the top of a mountain, like just, it was just so much joy to feel like I was getting myself back again and to feel human again. And it was incredible. So then I was always into health and nutrition. I was always, people would come to me naturally growing up as a kid, even that young, people would come to me and ask me about health and stuff. But once I learned the truth and I saw what was really helping heal me and others, I knew that I had to do this and share the healing with other people, because I thought I had compassion. I've always been a compassionate person, but until I got that sick, it just gave me a deeper level of empathy and compassion that is just, it really has, it's given me a profound level of communicating and having the compassion with people that are going through that. So it's been an incredible journey, and I feel like you're a sister, a mentor, a therapist, like all of the above. So I feel like we know Muneeza more than she knows us, because we see her all the time. Like, she's always talking and stuff. But yeah, it's been lovely to be here and be a part of it.
Thanks so much, Anna. I mean, I hear you with that. Like, yeah, I feel like anyone we watch on the public channels, feel like we know them because we're watching them all the time, and they're sharing parts of their journey with us, and we know bits about their lives. But I follow the both of you. So I
Right, like
wish
I'm
it,
going to your kitchen. I just feel like you and your kids, like I feel like I know you guys. I'm like, I want to go to her house and eat. Like I want to go visit her. That sounds like
I actually think that's a pretty popular sentiment. Like people tell me all the time, can you adopt me? Can I come live at your house? Can I eat at your table for a day? Like literally I get those comments every day on my socials. So I'm like, yeah, like I imagine like we could put up like massive tables and like we cook like a bunch of food and everybody's like eating. I think it's just food brings people together, and I think that we are busting through this myth that healthy food doesn't bring people together, but the healthy food that tastes amazing also brings people together, right? I mean, so my kids have their homeschool co-op. Their teachers are visiting, and we're having all the families visit, and they're all coming here, and and we have been. It's not happening for a month, but like we are already prepping. We've baked stuff, we've frozen things, we've got waffles, we've got the medical medium strawberry bread, we've got the wild blueberry muffins all baked, ready to go. Like the other day we made 70 muffins, and like we're baking like bulk because we're not going to get time to do it when everyone's here, so we have to start prepping because right now it's just the snacks and breakfast items and desserts, and then our next step is okay, now we're up to doing food. So like
maybe
oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Are you still have the cookies, or you're producing?
I mean, I'm still doing it. I'm doing it on a smaller scale, but yeah. So if you want, I can send you some. As I
Oh
say,
my gosh, I would love that. Nobody's going to say no to your cookies. We've had them before and they're absolutely delicious. You two have a gift with your food, Anna.
but I love the culture that you bring to it. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I think, there's just this idea that eating cultural ethnic food is just when you want to be unhealthy, or that's a treat. And I'm like, no, you could do this every day. Let's figure out these recipes. And my mother was a huge part of helping me do that. I'm like, Ma, I gotta cook oil free. And she looked at me like I had 10 heads. She goes, you want to do Pakistani food oil free? Like, that's not gonna happen. And she goes, you know how much we have to cook our onions, right? I'm like, she goes, how are you gonna get the flavor if you don't like cook them till they're almost dead? I'm like, yeah, Ma, like, you gotta help me figure this out. And she's like, oh, it's just not gonna work. And she does that, and she says all that, and then the next day she's like, by the way, I made an oil-free dal. I'm like, and how did it taste? She goes, it's not bad. It's actually not bad. She goes, I'm quite impressed with myself. I'm like, awesome, Mom. So how about we do this and this? And then we started like these different recipes, and she was like, yeah, it's actually not that bad. Like I'm finding the flavors in other ways. I'm like, tell me, how are you getting these flavors in? And so then when she would come visit, and we'd be working out recipes together, and we're like, okay, Mom, like, what do you do for this dish or this dish or this dish, or like a kebab dish, or she makes my grandmother's potato cutlet recipes, and my kids love them, like love them, and and so she's like, and my mom, when she comes, she makes like 200 of those and puts them in my freezer, and she's like, this is just for the kids. Don't you touch it. I'm like, I won't touch it. Like, it's for the kids. They're oil-free potato cutlets. Like, she does them exactly with the ingredients that I would do them. Like, it's done just right. And so when I'm watching my mom produce this food in bulk, and so my family, I have grown up with food being made not for one person. It's always made for like 20 people. So my grandmother doesn't have a small cooking pot. She only had the big ones. Like, she had like to serve 20 people. So I grew up learning how to cook big batches of food. And when we got married, my husband and I were alone in America, and I'm cooking food, and he's like, why do you need such a big pot? I'm like, because I don't know how to cook smaller. And so I'm like, I'm sorry, but I just don't know how to do it when it's smaller. And he's like, you gotta learn. He's like, you can't, like, how much food are you gonna cook every day? I'm like, because I cooked every day. I'd come back from work. I was working at NBC, and I'd come back from work and I'd cook meals. And he was like, okay, but why don't you just like freeze this, and then you don't have to cook next week? And I was like, but what do you mean we have to freeze it and then not cook? Like, that's not like, that doesn't sound right. There's something wrong with not cooking every day. And he's like, this is America. You cannot cook every day. You're gonna get so sick. And I'm like, okay, fine. And it took a lot of adjustment. But even in my mind now, when I cook, I think in big quantities. So when I have to write recipes for, for people and to go on my website, my team is like, really, Muneeza, 20 potatoes? Can we make this with half the amount? Because I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe you could cut it all in half. And so then they cut it in half. But when I start off, I start my recipes really big because my proportions are in like that way of thinking.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, the cooking is very funny because it's got so many stories, like so many stories around the food and the cooking and how many mishaps we've had with trying new recipes and getting them all wrong. And I think that many people get afraid too. They're like, oh, that's not going to work. And I think between my mom and my family and my husband going, you've got to learn how to make Pakistani food healthy. It's just been such a mission for me to find a way to make that food healthier and to make it taste delicious, and that, and that my parents and my own family are like, actually, this is not bad, like, pretty good food. And when my mom can say that, then it's good, because she's so like, her standards are so high. Oh, like, it's like, okay, mom likes it, then we're good. She's super critical too. She's like, its flavor's not quite right, or this is lacking this. And then I was like, Mom, well, try it with less salt. And she goes, oh, yo, like, what do you mean less salt? She goes, salt is the one thing I'm using because we're not using oil.
I feel like so much that I can relate to, because like, it was a little hard because I had to switch our Mexican dishes and like making them healthy. And that was like, yeah, like what you're sharing about how you've had help. Like my mom's found like she created this like oyster mushroom recipe for birria, and like I've been making these enchiladas, and like my husband is so happy because that when we first got married, I was making these authentic Mexican dishes that my abuelita, she showed me how to make. And then switching over to this lifestyle, there's a bit where you're like, okay, I can't make that right now. I got to heal. And then you start to heal and feel better. You're like, okay, now I can get real creative with some of these dishes. And like, you could use some of the cashew creams and have, like have those decadent versions, and then also like the less salt or no salt versions, and you can kind of play with them. And so anyway, I love hearing that, because I think so many of us can relate to it. And just, it's amazing that you spread this light to your mom, and she's spreading this light, like, it's just, I don't know, it's beautiful.
Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, it's just literally like just a part of who we are. I think if someone was a fly on the wall in our family conversations, you guys would just die laughing, because it's so funny and the reactions are so funny. My kids laugh. My kids sit there and they're like, oh my God, you guys are so funny. Oh my God, Nanu's so funny. Oh my God, like the way she reacts is so funny. And Hanan will go on and she'll be like, oh my God, did you see Nanu say? She's like, no, this, like, how can we eat without that? And then she'll also say to my kids, she'll be like, girls, I'm so sorry. I feel so bad that you can't have this. And my girls don't really care. So, and they laugh. They're like, she feels so bad, and she keeps telling us that we're deprived. And then, and the girls are like, but I don't feel deprived. And so it's funny, like, these conversations, because what my mom believes versus what my children actually feel is just funny in how that gets taken. But cooking is just what we do. It's a family thing. My grandmother was the ultimate cook. My mom, and then me, and my daughter Rayan now. She baked those 70 cupcakes or muffins. She did them all on her own. And I've been coming down to her to tell her, hey, let me help you. Let somebody help you. She won't. And she baked everything on her own. Like, literally, the strawberry bread, the muffins, the pancakes, the waffles. Like, today she made cinnamon bread. It's all baked. It's all gone in the freezer. She organized all of it. She packaged all of it. And I'm going, oh, like, here's my girl now who's now baking. And she wants to do it for this big group of people. And I thought she's going to get totally overwhelmed. But clearly the genes have come through, because she's like all cool with it. And I don't, like, like I don't understand this, but okay, I'm observing it. It's just funny, and I think that we want to bring so much more of our humanity to our healing and laughter and lightness, which is hard to do. And like I feel like I constantly make fun of myself or make fun of like each other for how we act or our idiosyncrasies. And like my girls know, like they're like, if mom walks into the kitchen and there's like a sink full of dishes, they're like, take cover, she's coming. Right? As a woman, you can understand that, right? When you see a sink full of dishes, it's like, and
Oh,
and if you have something piled on, like okay, you had a hard day and you're low on glucose, you walk into that kitchen and that trigger is just like, oh my gosh, okay, like so they scramble. Like if they hear me coming down, they're like, Mom, don't go to the kitchen right now. Like go the other way and don't look at the kitchen. We'll, like we made a mess, we'll fix it. But
that
it's like the funniest thing. Like if you watch that and keep thinking like it's like a comedy show, you know? But yeah, and of course we have our serious moments and our hard moments. Who doesn't? But it just
we all
it's so
I hope my little one can start baking and cooking for me.
Oh, with a mama like you, she's gonna totally start baking and cooking. And by the way, Vanya, people are saying they want your recipes.
I will be sharing some. I'm going to be putting together the enchilada recipe and I'll be having it on my website. I'm hoping to have that launched by the end of this month. So that'll be one of the first recipes is the enchiladas because those were so good, so delicious, and they're easy enough for anyone to make, which is really nice.
That's so cool because at the end of the day, it's about food, right? It's really about like that nourishment, not just from, oh, this is healing food, but like all the love that goes into making a recipe special or cooking it in a way that is, you want to get it right. And Anna, I know you get that because you're like a chef.
There's a beautiful word in Greek. It's meraki. And when you make something, when you cook something, it's like you put your soul, your essence, and your creativity into it. So when someone makes something, they're like, oh, she made it with meraki. You could just taste it. It's so yummy. But that's the love and the nurture that you said that you put into the food, like the energy. And it's a beautiful experience I had with my mother. So you sharing your family stories just really touched my heart because it was all about food and olive oil and a lot of salt.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, our traditional recipes are loaded with ingredients that most of us cannot eat on a sustained everyday basis. We could probably pull it off once in a while or, deal with something a bit heavier once in a while, but it's hard to pull it off, every day. And so how do we adjust? And if we can do that with our mothers or our parents and get them to get involved in the process rather than alienating or being like, well, you guys are like that and we're like this and we're just different, and people start having conflict and fights over this stuff. It breaks my heart because I'm like, look at what could happen if we came together and actually created something brand new. Like we're creating things that don't exist. Like oil-free Pakistani cooking didn't exist. And now it does. So an Indian cooking, like we have a company now that does oil-free, low-salt Indian food that's vegan and gluten-free. Like, who would have thunk?
Unbelievable.
Right? So I feel like that's what happens when we create community. That's the spark. That's the beauty of it. And let's get into that. Let's focus on the beauty and the spark of what we can create together and share recipes and share our love, because so many people share love through food. Let's just be real. Like it's so built into us, right? And so Christy says, I just made enchiladas for the first time. Compliant was so good. That's so cool, right? I mean, that we get to experiment and create something new that we are now can include in our repertoire of food, which before we thought, oh, that's no way that's going to happen. So, like it's exciting. I think it's so exciting. And I feel like it gives me hope for people and the future and what we can create. And it has to start somewhere. Every idea that ever became big started really small and started with sharing with one person, and then it flourished and became huge, and that's where we are. And I feel like we're only just beginning. We're only just beginning, you know. So, Christy, I'm so glad that you've enjoyed our live today. We are going to wrap it up, but it's been a pleasure just to chat and dialogue with Vanya and with Anna, who are both incredible women practitioners, chefs, you know, just like women with heart and compassion and putting others first and trying to help. And yes, they've both been on their healing journeys, but they're just, I mean, what you ladies embody is just so dear to my heart. So thank you for being you. Thank you for sharing you. And thank you for being here and sharing your stories, because it matters to share our stories.
Thank you so much, Muneeza. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. This was awesome. I enjoy Anna. We've chatted too, just through like socials and
We
stuff. And I'm
bonded over our cats.
yeah,
And now I'm hungry because you keep talking about these
I
enchiladas.
know. Me too.
Oh my gosh.
Muneeza,
Muneeza, you should do a retreat in your backyard.
You know, the retreat thing keeps coming up, and
Yeah.
it's coming up again more and more now, and I'm thinking seriously, we're gonna put something together and see what happens, you know. Maybe where we do it, how we do it, I don't know, but just something simple where people can come and just connect. I think that's what anybody wants, right? We can connect with each other and build. And I think it always starts with, you know, it starts before we can find each other in the real world, like find each other virtually, and then let's take that to the real world. And if you're, you know, if you're all looking or curious about the community, like please check out the healing community. We have our new offer for the 6 months of subscription available, and it's going to be available for a short time. So if you want to jump in, now's the time. Rafi says, I just received my first order from First Seed yesterday. I look forward to dinner tonight. This stuff, by the way, I'll tell you, it's oil-free, vegan, gluten-free. It does not get better than this. Their food is so good. You get chana masala, the rajma bean masala. You get they have rice included, which is pulao. And by the way, they used to have corn in it. And I talked to the owners. I'm like, could you take the corn out? And they did. They took the corn out. And you know, they happened to use like a salt, which they didn't tell me about because they thought salt's not going to be a problem. They ended up putting like some iodized salt in it. And then I called them up. I'm like, can't do that. This thing's got like corn in it. It's got other things in it. And then the owner's like, okay, literally any other formulas, we are running past you. Like any new formulas we're creating.
They're ready to develop.
Well, I think, yeah, we're like their kind of, you know, sounding board, because so many people in the community love them. And it has kind of taken the community by storm, this company, because people are like, what, you're talking about Indian food that I can eat in my home, that'll be shipped to my door and I don't have to cook it, and it's a dream come true, right?
Yeah, ordering.
Yeah. So lots of cool things. Lori, the name of the company is on the screen right now. It's First Seed Foods. And Christy says, can you please be the 3 chefs for the retreat? I'm there. Like, you asked me to cook, I'm there. Like, I love cooking. I love, like, and of course, like the big pots. I'm like, oh my gosh, big pots of cooking. It just lights me up. So anyway, thank you both for being here. Thank you for just such a fun conversation, and for just your support and your love. It means everything.
Thank you. And
Thank
thank
you.
you. So nice to spend with you guys. Thank you for this, Muneeza.
Yes, and I love seeing every. There's community here too.
Sounds good. Take care, everybody. Have a beautiful night, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye, all.